Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cristo Rey Network Virtual College Fair. We are very excited that you were able to join us today. There is a lot of information that we're going to be sharing with you over the next couple hours. Here in this session, we will be talking about Financial Aid 101, but there are also numerous colleges at this virtual college fair for you guys to learn more information as well. Just a quick few tips and reminders for our session. Your camera and microphone are turned off, so we cannot see or hear you. So if you do need to ask any questions at any time, please put those into the Q&A and we'll get to them as they come through. Definitely sign up for more sessions as well. There's lots, we said, of different colleges on this session today and other different panels as well. We are also recording these sessions, so that way if you missed anything or need to review anything, you'll be able to go back to them as well. All right, well, let's get started. We do have a video for you here today, and then we'll kick off our financial aid conversations.
And don't forget about the Ask Me Anything open forum at 7 p.m. Central on Thursday. Welcome to the Cristo Rey Network Virtual College Fair. We're glad that you're here, and we congratulate you and your families for taking this next step in your college journey. With over 25,000 alumni nationwide from 39 schools in 24 states and almost 13,000 students currently in Cristo Rey high schools, we're glad that we have over 5,000 juniors and seniors who are joining us for this virtual college fair this year. We're joined by nearly 100 college partners who are invested in your future, some of which have been partnering with us for over 15 years. You'll have the opportunity to connect with dozens of colleges and partake in one of two Financial Aid 101 sessions. One will be in Spanish and one in English. And since all these sessions will be recorded, don't worry if you miss something, because we'll put them out on YouTube after the fair. And don't forget about the Ask Me Anything open forum at 7 p.m. Central on Thursday and 3 p.m. Central on Saturday. This is your prime opportunity to ask college admissions representatives anything. We want you to leave this fair confident and empowered to start your college journey. Thank you for all of your commitment to the classes of 2023 and 2024, to our parents, guardians, students, college counselors, and college representatives. Viva Cristo Rey!
Okay, so we're going to get started here with the Financial Aid 101 session. You can find the presentation at the link that I just provided. Feel free to make a copy for yourself. And so to get started here, I'm going to introduce myself very quickly. My name is Bianca Peiss, and I'm the Director of College Initiatives for the 39 high schools across the Cristo Rey Network. We're currently in 24 different states. So as Kelby mentioned, this session will be recorded as well as all of the sessions. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. And as a reminder, because of your participation, we will choose at random a lucky winner for some raffle gifts. So we're really looking forward to it. So we'll spend some time today doing an introduction to financial aid terminology, talking about the process to receiving financial aid, and then we'll go through some common myths, and then we'll have some wrap up and some time for questions. So if you are a senior in the room, I'm just curious, why don't you put in the chat an indication that you are a senior in the room? So I know who's in the room. If you're a junior, maybe put in that you're a junior. And if you're a parent, let us know that you are a parent. So if you're a senior, you know this very well. You're doing this right now. August, September, October, you're writing personal statements. You're asking for letters of recommendation. You just took the SAT. You're working on something called the Common Application. You have a lot that you're doing. At the bottom, if you see where it says college selection, you're also attending fairs in person and virtual as you are doing today. You're trying to figure out from those fairs and from conversations with your family, your friends, and your college counselor, what school should I apply to? So this is a really good time to sort of narrow down that list. And then, of course, you are demonstrating interest. That means that if there's a school that you really like, you're emailing those admission representatives and you're saying, I like your school and I intend to apply to it. Admission reps really love seeing those emails and those notes from you. So make sure that you're reaching out to them if you decide to apply. Okay, so we're going to focus though today on financial aid. So that means that that's that center section right here. There is a lot to do if you're a parent or a senior. And we're going to talk about all of those things today. And I broke this down for you for the entire senior year, so August through June. These are all sort of the tasks that you have to do. And it's organized by prepare, apply, and accept. So for prepare, this is what you're doing before you actually apply. You're gathering your 2022 taxes. If you filed as a student, then you're going to do that. If you're a guardian or a parent and you filed your federal taxes, then you'll collect those. You're going to gather any W-2s that you have. The student and the guardian or the parent will be creating an FSA ID. You should be doing that now if you can. And then once we move into November and December, you start to actually complete these applications, these financial aid applications. The first is the CSS profile. Now that CSS profile is only for some colleges, and I'll talk about those in just a second. So you don't have to worry about it unless your college that you're applying to is listed in the hyperlink. Everyone has to then apply to FAFSA, and that opens up in December. So we have to get ready for that. You'll be doing that between December and January. And then in February, you'll be turning in documents to prove what you said on FAFSA is true. So you said, as a parent, I make $65,000. Then you have to sometimes turn in a copy of those transcripts, a copy of those federal taxes, or a copy of your W-2. So that's called verification. You start to turn in all those documents that you sort of notified the college about in FAFSA. And then in March and April, your student, your child should receive what we call award letters. And I'm saying this to all the seniors right now, and I'm saying this to all the parents right now. You really, really should collect award letters for every school that you've been accepted to. So you'll get those college acceptances after January, and your goal is to get an award letter from every single school that you've been accepted to. The award letter is essentially how much you're going to pay for that school. Even if you don't want to go there anymore, you should still collect that award letter. On May 1st, everyone has to make a decision on where they're going to go. It's very stressful, but you're able to make that decision, an informed decision, if you have those award letters in front of you and you can make that comparison. After May, you're going to accept financial aid. And then if you're taking out any loans, you will sign loan agreements. So that's the full year. I just went through it. We're going to go into details in just a second. Okay, so what is financial aid? Let's talk about some terminology. Financial aid makes, in short, college affordable for you. Okay, a lot of times on the news and in the media, we talk about the growing cost of college. You can see numbers as high as $80,000 and $50,000, and that's a lot of money. But financial aid is what helps you get from what you actually have to pay and what that sticker amount is. So it's the difference between what the student can afford and what the actual cost is. Financial aid is broken up into two sections. There's need-based aid and there's merit-based aid. Need-based aid is financial aid that is provided to you based off of what you put into FAFSA, based off of what FAFSA has said you've demonstrated your need, based off of your family's income. Merit-based aid is based off of your grades, your performance in school, your leadership. That looks like scholarships generally. So if you think that you can't afford college, I want you to think again. There's a lot of financial aid out there. And more importantly, sometimes certain schools may not be affordable, but there's a school just like it that is affordable. So it's really important that we understand where this financial aid is coming from. Okay, so I told you that there's two types of aid, need-based and merit-based, and then you can break that even further down. So there's also 4 specific types within there. So we've got scholarships and grants, loans, and work study. Scholarships and grants, we call that gift aid. You don't have to pay that back. That's the stuff we like, okay? That's the free money. Loans and work study, we also like those by a certain amount, right? We don't want to take out too many loans. And we call that self-help aid. Self-help aid is because you have to pay your loans back. So you're kind of helping yourself. You're just going to pay it in the future. Or for work study, you have to actually work to get that money. So let's look at those scholarships and grants, the stuff I said we really like. You can break that even further down. There's 3 types of gift aid, and that's federal grants, state grants, and scholarships. Federal grants come from the federal government. The most common grant that you can get from the federal government is called the Pell Grant, and that's need-based. That's based off of what you put down in FAFSA. State grants come from the state that you live in, and that's often provided by the state based off of what you put in FAFSA and based off of the college that you go to. So if you go, for instance, if you go to school in Illinois, I'm from Illinois. If you go to school in Illinois, you're eligible to receive Illinois grants. So often it's determined based off of whether or not you decide to go to a school within the state that you live in. Scholarships, we all know about scholarships. That can come from organizations, that can come from your church, and more often than not, that comes from the college. And that's why some schools, some colleges are more affordable than others, because some colleges will give you a ton of scholarship dollars. And that's what we really want to dig into when we're developing our list. Okay, second group, that's self-help aid. We've got loans and federal work study. Loans come from 2 different places, either the federal government or a private bank. The federal government loans, those are the ones that have the lowest interest rate normally. And whenever you hear about forgiveness, like loan forgiveness, the ones that can be forgiven would be those federal loans. Private loans come from banks, and the goal of a private loan, like any goal for a loan with a bank, is to generate revenue. The bank wants to make money off of you, okay? So those loans won't be forgiven. Federal work study, that comes from the federal government, and it basically is a part-time job that students can have during their school year. Sometimes that work gets paid out monthly or bi-monthly, and depending on the college that you go to, that paycheck can actually go directly towards tuition. So you can kind of help yourself out with tuition payments. It's a really, really good option. Okay, so that's federal financial aid terminology. Now let's talk about how to receive financial aid. How are we getting there? So this is the full process to receiving financial aid. First, you're going to apply. Then you're going to verify the information that you put on that application. Then you'll receive an award letter. You'll accept that award letter. There are some forms you have to fill out. And after you fill out those forms, you can finally receive your financial aid. All of this should happen starting in December, all the way up to July. Okay, so let's talk about applying. First application that I want to talk about is FAFSA. That's the free application for student aid. FAFSA is from the federal government, or it's an application from the Department of Education from the federal government. And there's more than $185 million in financial aid assistance. And there are millions and millions of dollars every year that don't get used because students don't apply. FAFSA is where you'll begin to receive any of the financial aid that I just named: scholarships, grants, loans, or work study. I want to be clear here. FAFSA is a free application. There are scams out there that will tell you, oh, apply here for financial aid, but you have to fill out this application and it's $50. Just so you know, if it's from the federal government, it's going to end in a .gov, and they will never ask you for a fee. They'll never ask you to pay for the application. Okay, so what do you need to know about FAFSA? What's the quick and dirty? Well, the first thing is that you have to do FAFSA every single year. You have to complete an application every single year that you're in college. So this year, if you're a senior, you're completing FAFSA for next year. And then you have to complete FAFSA again for your sophomore year. Then you have to do it again for your junior year, so on and so forth. If you're a dependent student, we can talk about dependency later in the chat if you have any questions about that. But if you're a dependent student, then you have to include your parents' taxes. So if you live with your parents or your parents provide for you, you have to provide your parents' taxes. That's not an option. And those taxes should be the 2022 federal taxes, the 1040, and any schedules included with that. The application that you'll be completing is the 2024-2025 FAFSA application. Without FAFSA, unfortunately, you cannot receive any loans, oftentimes scholarships or grants. So when does it open? It opens up in December. So if you're a parent that had students go to college before, if you went to college, maybe you're telling yourself, it's October, I have to apply now. So there was some changes done. So this year it's opening up in December. So you haven't missed the mark. When should you complete it? As soon as possible. Why? Well, federal aid generally doesn't run out, but those state grants that I mentioned before, like if you go to a state school or you go to school within the state, there's a lot of money that you can receive. For instance, in Illinois, you can get $7,200 if you apply for FAFSA and you go to a school in Illinois. But that state grant runs out. It's on a first come, first served basis. And you don't want to apply too late and miss out on $7,000. In some states, it can be up to $16,000. It's different for each state. So it's really, really important that you file FAFSA as soon as possible. How should you apply? Well, here's the exact website. You go to studentaid.gov. There's no other website for FAFSA. Studentaid.gov. If you want to do it from your phone or as an app, there's also an app called My Student Aid. However, I will say the mobile app, it's a little clunky and there are a couple bugs in there, as in like sometimes it like freezes on you. So I highly recommend that you do it on your computer or at school via studentaid.gov. Okay, so when you go to studentaid.gov, this is what it looks like. You're going to select FAFSA forms, and then you're going to select the 2024-2025 application. If your parent or you're more comfortable with the Spanish language, you actually have the option to toggle between the languages between here, English versus Spanish. So who should complete FAFSA? Well, first, every single senior who's a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. So you know what a U.S. citizen is. If you're a U.S. citizen, no question, you should do it. Non-citizens, how do I know if I'm a non-citizen? Well, if you're a U.S. permanent resident with a permanent resident card that is not expired. If you have any questions about that, talk to your college counselor. And there's also a conditional permanent residency called an I-55-1C. So if you have that card and it says I-55-1C, then you're eligible to apply. If you have any questions on whether or not you're eligible, please talk to your college counselor at Cristo Rey. Should students complete the FAFSA if they're not 100% sure they're going to college? 100% you should complete FAFSA in December. Here's why. When you do FAFSA now, you're doing it for next year's college, right? So you're doing it for 2024 to 2025 academic year. Let's say you decide to not go to college for the first semester and you're like, you know what, I want to work. But you change your mind in January. And when you change your mind in January, we want to make sure that that financial aid is available to you at any point throughout next year. So 100% everyone should do FAFSA. You're not committing to anything. There's no fee. It's no harm, right? You should always do FAFSA. What if your parent or your guardian is undocumented? So again, as long as the student is a US citizen or an eligible non-citizen, they are eligible for financial aid and they should apply even if their parents are undocumented, okay? And if your parent is undocumented, it's really important to know that they have to create an FSA ID, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But an FSA ID is basically just an account with a login information so that you can fill out the form. So your undocumented parent should fill out an FSA ID. I want you to speak to your college counselor about your family situation if your parents are undocumented, because there are some special steps that they have to take and they can guide you through those steps. What if you think you're ineligible for aid because you just make too much money as a parent? Well, here's the thing. Even if you don't qualify for some of that free money, which you don't know until you apply, but even if you don't qualify for that free money, you still may qualify for those loans that have very low interest rates or those scholarships based off of merit. So we recommend that all eligible students apply and file FAFSA. Again, feel free to put your questions in the chat and then I'll answer them towards the end. So the goal, 100% of eligible students apply. And I want you to write this date down right now. I want you to put it in your calendar. You should have a completed FAFSA that's correct, fully filed, no later than January 30th. Okay, so what information is needed? For the 2024-2025 FAFSA, you'll need the student's social security number. Make sure it's correct. Sometimes we switch a number. So take a look at what that card says, right? And if you're a permanent resident, look at your alien registration number. You'll also need a record of income. Guardians and students, if you filed federal income taxes, you'll want your 2022 federal income taxes, your W-2, and any other records of income. So any other schedules, if you have a business, any other schedules of earned income. You'll also want, if possible, to gather documents for child support paid or received and any other untaxed income. As I mentioned, you'll want to have an FSA ID. The parent and the student must have an FSA ID. And there's a hyperlink on the slide to show you how to create an FSA ID. Finally, you'll want to gather information about assets. And I'll talk about assets in a second. But assets are examples of like savings, stocks, bonds, 529 plans, any other sort of investment in real estate, businesses, or farms. So here's that list. So if you have cash savings in a checking account that you're not using for your bills, look at that number and write that number down. If you receive child support, look at the annual, calculate what the annual child support is and write that number down. And then if you have any of these investments or assets, so these are stocks, like investments, parental assets that are held in younger children, you still have to write that down. Real estate investments, that's not your home. So if you have like a second home that you rent out, you'll want to write down the net worth of that. Any businesses, the net worth of the business, as well as farms. So once you have all that information and then you put it into FAFSA, you'll get a congratulations, you've completed FAFSA. So what are you looking for after you've entered that information? Well, the first thing you're looking for is the Student Aid Index, or SAI. SAI is an eligibility index number that colleges use to provide financial aid, those grants that we talked about, either federal or state, as well as sometimes scholarship dollars. So your SAI remains the same regardless of the college that you apply to. So your SAI will remain the same for 1 year, right? Because you're applying for next year. And any of the colleges that you apply to, they'll receive that number. So what I want you to do is I want you to write down that number after you've completed the FAFSA. Where can you find your SAI? Again, it'll be at the end, right here, under congratulations, your estimated student aid index. You can also find it on the FAFSA summary page. Where do I find the summary page? Well, here's what it looks like. Here's the FAFSA submission summary page. After you submit, they're going to give you an estimated initial SAI. And then about 3 days after, sometimes it's a little quicker depending on when you apply, if there are a lot of applications. But about 3 days after, they'll email you, congratulations, it's been processed, your application has been processed, and here's your SAI, as well as the amount of free money in the Pell Grant that you're eligible for, and the amount of self-help money in the amount of student loans that you're eligible for, and whether or not you're eligible for federal work study. So it's a really, really important summary page that you end up getting. Also note that sometimes you may have an error. One of the common errors that I see is that a student will put down that they make the exact same amount of money that their parent makes because they confuse the two, right? And you know, the application is smart. And so what it will do is that it will tell you, hey, I want you to take a look at this question. There may be an error there. So if there are any errors, you'll want to take a look and you can make those corrections if necessary. That's the application that everyone is going to complete. This next application is only related and required to specific colleges, and it's only 400 colleges. So if you click on this link, it will take you to the colleges that it's required for. So CSS profile domestic student, you'll look at if it says yes, okay? So it's only required for certain colleges, and it basically asks additional questions that the FAFSA doesn't ask. For instance, they'll ask you, do you pay tuition? Maybe you have a younger child that you have to pay tuition towards, or you have medical expenses. So they just want to get a better idea of what the financial situation is for you. So there are deadlines associated to each college. What I want you to do is if you're considering applying to one of these schools, look for those deadlines. The CSS profile is free if the family makes 100,000 or less. If the family makes more than 100,000, then it will be $25 for the first application and then $16 for each application after that. Okay, some common myths. Is it pointless to apply to FAFSA if you make too much money? No, we recommend everyone applies. Can you use your grandmother if you don't want to use your parents because she makes less? No, you have to use the parents, your dependent guardians. My parents are undocumented, so I cannot apply. You can apply for financial aid if you are an eligible citizen. My parents do not file taxes, so I cannot apply. You can still apply for financial aid. My SAI will remain the same year after year after year. No, your SAI will likely change every year because you have to apply every year. So your income might change. I'm a parent and I'm currently going through bankruptcy, so I cannot apply for financial aid. If you're going through bankruptcy or if there's something going on where you're experiencing hardship, you should 100% apply. Even more so, you may be eligible for more financial aid. Okay, so we've applied. That's the big one. Now let's talk about verification. So again, verification is just the college ensuring that what you put on FAFSA is accurate. Sometimes we make mistakes, right? So they may ask for additional documentation like, great, you said that you make $60,000. Can you please provide a copy of your W-2? Or, great, you said that there are 5 people in your house. Can you please name who those people are? So what they do is they ask you for additional information. And the way that this looks, how do they do this? They do this through what they call worksheets. And so there's a document, a worksheet that they'll have you fill out and sign where you have to answer these additional documents. Sometimes they ask for a copy of your W-2s or tax return transcripts. Verification is random, so it doesn't hit everybody. It won't apply to everyone, so you won't know it applies to you unless the college notifies you. So I highly recommend that after your thank you, Esteban. I will answer that question at the end. I highly recommend that after you received your acceptances, that you call up each college and say, hey, I'd like my award letter. And if they say, we'd love to provide it, but can you please provide these documents? Then you know that you have to provide those documents. So colleges with verification, they're just looking to find that everything kind of like lines up. So they're looking for inconsistencies. So if you said 5 people on FAFSA, they're looking for you to name those 5 people on the worksheet. If you said 60,000 on the taxes, they're looking for 60,000 on the worksheet or on your W-2s. So they're just looking for consistency. And so wherever possible, make sure that you are consistent with what you're putting down on FAFSA and what you're putting down on your worksheet. Okay, after the verification, you should be receiving an award letter. On the award letter, you'll see scholarships, loans, grants, work study, and cost of attendance. We just added one. Let's talk about cost of attendance. Cost of attendance is direct cost and indirect cost. It's essentially, what does it cost to go to that college? It can get really confusing because cost of attendance will include direct costs like tuition fees, if you're dorming, the meal plan, but it will also sometimes include, hey, we think that you might spend $1,200 on flights throughout the year. So they'll also estimate how much you may pay for in other expenses. So when we're looking at an award letter, we kind of want to not look at those indirect costs because those are estimates. They're like, I think you'll spend $10 on shampoo, and then they'll add all that up for the year, right? They're making estimates. So what we like to do is ignore the indirect costs for now and just focus in on the direct costs, tuition fees, meal plan, and dorm.
I didn't get that.
Here's an example of a real award letter. And so this is from Lycoming College. This is from a real student. And you'll see that it's broken up into fall, spring, and the total cost. And then it's got awards, loans, and direct expenses or direct cost. And then it's fall, spring, and total. So the first question that you want to answer as a family is this college affordable for my family? So for this student, their SAI was negative 1,200. So again, cost of attendance, refresher, direct expenses or direct cost, tuition fees, room and board. Indirect expenses is everything at the bottom. We'll only focus in on direct cost or direct expenses. Here's a little cheat sheet on how to calculate this award letter. So let's use that cheat sheet. Direct cost, let's do it all together. Direct cost, if we look at it, tuition, room and board and fees, that is $56,393. Then if we look at the top, Lycoming grant and the presidential scholarship, that's $44,548. So that's a lot of free money that we're looking at. That's great. Then when we look at the federal free money, federal Pell, federal FSAOG, that's $7,345. When we subtract that free money from the direct cost, we see that the net price is $4,500. The net price is just basically what you have to pay with all the free money, right? And then they offered the student $5,500 in student loans. So if the student took out the full loans, which you don't have to take out what they offer you, you can take out as much as you want, the student would receive a refund of $1,000. So the student's out of pocket is negative $1,000. That's amazing. This is a good award letter. And if you notice that much of the scholarships that are coming in are coming from the college itself. So some common myths. Most affordable colleges are community colleges. Absolutely false. Some of the most affordable colleges are listed in your college checklist, which is included here. Cost of attendance is what I have to pay to go to college. No, cost of attendance includes all of that estimated information. You are going to pay what your out-of-pocket cost is after you do that calculation that I just showed you. Once I get an award letter, to my dream school, I'm all done. Absolutely not. Once you get an award letter, I want you to get an award letter from 2 or more schools. You want to compare all of your options. Once I get an award letter, that is what I have to pay. No, remember that you need to calculate the award letter. What is on the award letter may be really weird, okay? So make sure that you're calculating it. All right, now let's talk about student loans. I'm going to give you a cheat sheet.
Here's what I found.
Super fast. So first one is when you're looking at your award letter, you have to accept it. You have to literally sign and say, yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. Yes, I want this. First thing you're going to accept is all the free money, scholarships, grants, work study. Then after you calculate that free money, if you still have an out-of-pocket cost, then you want to look at the loans. First, go to the subsidized Stafford loan. Then, if you still need more money, go to the unsubsidized Stafford loan. Look at what your out-of-pocket is after you take out those 2 loans. If you still need more money, now we start to kind of get into a place where maybe you shouldn't go to that college, okay? Maybe it's not affordable, okay? But if you still need more money, you can't pay the rest out of pocket, then you can consider the federal Parent Plus loan. That has a higher interest rate. And then if you still need more money, last option is you take out private loans. We don't want you to get to this point because it's super costly, okay? There may be other colleges that are more affordable for you that you can consider. Okay, so why did I say first you take out those and then these? Here's an example. Institutional scholarships. You get that through, and if you look at this, it's organized by financial aid type, amount, interest rate, and the application to get this money. Scholarships, you get it through FAFSA and the CSS profile. Those grants from the government that I kind of noted for you, from the state grants, you get that through FAFSA. You could get $8,000, $16,000, depending on your state, you can get a lot of money. Federal grants, there's the FSEOG, that can be up to $4,000. Pell Grant, that's $7,300, all from FAFSA. You're going to take those out first. Whatever you get offered, you're going to grab those. Then it's the federal direct subsidized loan. They're going to offer you $3,500 automatically. It's automatically, you're eligible for it if you complete FAFSA. You don't have to take it out, but it's offered to you. The interest rate is 5.5%, but there's no interest while you're in college. So if you take $3,500 out now, in 4 years, it's $3,500. And if you want to, you could just pay it, no interest. The next one is the unsubsidized loan. That one's $2,000 for the year. And that has a 5% interest rate, 5.5% interest rate. That does have interest while you're in college. So you take out $2,000 as a freshman, it will be $2,100 when you're a senior. Parent Plus loan, that is an application that your parent has to complete. It's not guaranteed that they'll be accepted. They're going to check the credit, and it's 8.05%. So it's a higher interest rate. And as I mentioned, they're going to check your credit. If your parents get denied, you can actually get an additional $4,000 in this federal student loan at 5.5%. Talk to your college counselor about that. Finally, private loans. I looked at some private loans that are very common. They range from 4.5% to 17%, and it varies, and sometimes it changes as interest rates change. So be careful with that, and obviously there's an external application. Okay, we have about 6 minutes, and we're down to the stretch. So let's talk about some common myths about loans. Taking out student federal loans is not a good financial move. Not true. It's a great financial move if it helps you get to really great college that you like, and if you take out a healthy amount of loans. What's a healthy amount of loans? I'm going to go back for a second. These. If you can take out just these 2 loans, the $5,500, then you're in a good place. If you can pay for the rest out of pocket, then you're in a good place. Why do I say that? Because one, those federal loans have lower interest rates. They can be forgiven potentially. And if you just took out those loans, which is about $5,500, maybe $6,000, depending on your situation, that's about $260 a month in payments after you graduate. Okay, that's less than a common car payment. That's sometimes as much as a phone bill. So is it worth $260 to go to your dream school to get that really great education? Absolutely. Now, where we say don't do this, don't take out $60,000 in loans. Don't take out that Parent Plus loan plus the private loan, right? So limit it to the student federal loans. That's what my recommendation is. I don't have credit, so I cannot get student federal loans. Incorrect. All students are offered federal loans as long as you apply for FAFSA. I have to apply for student federal loans. Yes, you have to apply in that. Once you apply for FAFSA, then you'll get offered it. I have to accept the Parent Plus loan if I apply. If you're a parent and you apply to the Parent Plus loan just to see if you're eligible, you actually don't have to accept it. And some parents apply just to see if they get denied, because if they get denied, the student will be offered an additional $4,000 in a 5.5% interest rate, which is really good. Okay, let's say you want to accept the loans. There are two forms or two things that you have to get done. It's called an entrance loan counseling and a master promissory note. Entrance loan counseling is just helping you understand what the rules and regulations are for a loan. Pretty easy. The master promissory note is that agreement that you are going to pay the government back. You can't get a loan. Like, even if you say, yes, I want the loan, you can't, it won't hit your tuition. It won't hit your account unless you do these two things. So remember that this has to be done after you've chosen your school if you're planning on getting loans. All right, after you've done that, you're essentially done. You've got your financial aid all ready and all set. That was a lot of information. So let's go through a couple last common myths. I will make college affordable by applying to outside scholarships. While that's nice, generally the way to make college affordable is by applying to colleges like Lycoming. There are many other ones that provide a ton in scholarship dollars. And you can get that list in the college checklist in that link that I told you about before. There is no appeal process or ability to negotiate my award letter. Guys, everything is negotiable, right? You can negotiate everything. Appeal your award letter if you'd like to, especially if you have additional circumstances like a bankruptcy or medical expenses. I will have to pay my out-of-pocket all up front. Absolutely not. Normally, if you don't do anything, you'll pay per semester, or there's a payment plan that you can apply for. My financial aid will be distributed automatically based on my award letter. As a reminder, no, once you get your award letter, you still have to sign it, you have to accept it. My out-of-pocket remains the same year after year. It does not remain the same year after year because you have to apply to financial aid every single year. So if your parents make less income next year or more, then your financial aid will change and your out-of-pocket will change. So here's a reminder of all of the steps, and there are hyperlinks to help you get through some of these steps, as well as your college counselor to help you. And here's a detailed list of your roadmap to finishing your FAFSA financial aid. I want to discuss just really quickly. Right now, some things that you can do is I want you to identify who your guardian or your parent is. If your parents are divorced, or if you have a special circumstance, talk to your college counselor. You can also look at these other slides that I have for you, okay? So identify who your guardian is. You as a senior and the guardian, once you've identified that, create an FSAID account for each person. And I want you to save that username and that password. And then finally, gather your 2022 federal taxes, your W-2, and the net worth of any assets that you have. Okay, that's all for my presentation. I'm going to look at some of these questions. Feel free to put questions in the chat. We have a couple more seconds left. My older brother has me on his taxes as a part of his household because he helps to provide for my needs. So depending on the situation, depending on your parent's situation and guardianship, if there was legal guardianship potentially provided, then you can put down your brother. But if you guys didn't go through the court to either have your brother adopt you or there isn't a legal guardianship, you might have to still put your parents down, and that's okay. It doesn't matter who claims you on taxes. It matters who your legal guardian is or who your contributor is. So take a look at those slides and reach out to your college counselor. They'll be happy to identify who your contributor is. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining. The recording and the slides will be available at the end. I've got one question. I didn't pay taxes in the last few years, and I'm planning already to apply. Can my son apply? Absolutely, your son can apply. Now, if you didn't do your taxes last year, I highly recommend that if you have to do taxes, that you get those taxes done for the 2022 year. It's going to help you complete the application. Other questions? Do you need to pay first? That's a great question. Technically, you don't need to pay first to file taxes. My husband and I live in the same house but file separately. Will that be an issue? It will not be an issue, but you both should create an FSA ID account. And you'll both fill out FAFSA. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you everyone for joining us. As a reminder, the session was recorded, so you will be able to go back and view all those very great informational slides that Bianca had for us. Hopefully you will enjoy more of the sessions that we have going on. There are a few more panels as well as some other college info sessions. But again, thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.